I survived the disaster. I'm not unscathed, but I
No,
live. I breathe.
a shattered man emerges from the wreckage.
I'm a shell of my former self. Parts
It hit
of
hard, man.
audio interfaces are strewn across the landscape. The shadow reaches as far as the eye can see. I have flashbacks, PTSD style, to the in my ears for no reason.
It wasn't that bad, right? You could have recorded with that.
This is my PTSD face. Or my Arrow Baron Steel face.
I was gonna say that's the face. Yeah, that coming soon in an emote to your Twitch account
near you.
Yeah.
So yes, it is. It's time to actually do the show because last night there was an attempt, and equipment prohibited that from going through, despite all of my best efforts. And I promise you guys,
yeah,
they were my best efforts.
I thought we had it. He was in try hard, like times a million mode. The dude tried so hard.
It was so sad, but fortunately, I have old gear in my closet, so I just grabbed another interface when I remembered I had one. And now I'm here. And plus I bought a new one, so that's on the way too.
We're set.
We're going to emerge better. We're like the rising phoenix.
Listen, spam this Steve if you believe in us always doing this podcast.
That's right.
No matter what hurdles we face.
Let's see the Steve wall.
Steve wall. Look, if you don't know what we're talking about yet, just keep an eye on your Twitch chat in upcoming Thieves matches. You're gonna see
here it comes. Wall. It's starting to come.
Doesn't take long. Doesn't take long.
Hey,
chat never fails.
So let's do the formal thing. This is Hunter Talk. Welcome to Hunter Talk.
Welcome to Hunter Talk.
I'm this guy. He's that guy. And we are 2 more weeks left in the season. Crazy.
That is pretty nuts. Summer split just blew right on by.
Yeah. Here we are sitting at 4 games left to play. And guess what? We tied for 6th place.
Technically, we're in playoffs? ?
Tiebreaker pending?
Yeah, pending tiebreaker. I don't want a tiebreaker. I want a tiebreaker for 5th.
He says Super Ninja Banquet said spam this pound like British pound to fix 100 Talk sound. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so good. Look, all right, I'm going to try not to be distracted by all of the beautiful jokes in our Twitch chat. We have like the best Twitch chat ever, by the way. And try and focus on what was a weird weekend. Can we just come out and say it? It was really weird.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah. I think we have said that about 100 Thieves about 4,000 times.
I've for sure said that
this
before.
Is 4,001.
Because it was again.
Strange weekend. We had the decimation of 100 Thieves by Cloud9 at the merciless hands of Cloud9. And then we turned around and took out all the frustrations on little brother FlyQuest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In a bad way.
Yeah. It's like the kid who gets beat up at school and he like goes home and kills a squirrel in his backyard.
Oh, no.
Like, it was weird. It was a weird weekend. So, honestly, like, I feel like it's going to be hard to break down these games in any sort of meaningful way. But we're here to do it anyway. We're here to try.
We're going to try.
Yeah.
We're going to try. Yeah, we were talking about it before we went live, and we're kind of like, not a whole lot of talking points from these games other than one wasn't close and neither was the other. You know?
You have a beautiful way with words. So
I got him.
Look, okay. I think let's start with the bad. Okay.
Let's go in chronological order. Why don't we?
Okay, sure. I mean, that's what we always do. The C9 game. Okay. It was not close, and it was painful, and I feel personally attacked by this game. And here's why.
From whom?
Let me tell you, this is why I feel personally attacked. Actually, Jordan, you, even more than me, should feel personally attacked.
I think you're
on
right.
our
I think I do.
show.
I don't know why yet.
On our show the previous week,
yeah.
you said something along the lines of 100 Thieves is suddenly hard to draft against. And you called out, you're like, we got all these picks. I mean, we've got the Corki. We've got the Zaya.
Don't forget Zaya. I never do.
We've got the anything Ryu plays. What else
the
was
Diana.
it? No. the Sejuani, yes, thank you. Like, we called out all these power picks, and it was like, yeah, it's getting hard to draft against us. It's getting hard to ban against us. And C9 said, oh, really? Like the old classic owl meme from back in the days before most of our listeners were on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they totally destroyed us before this game even started, I felt like.
Yeah. The age-old meme. Lose draft, lose game.
Yes.
And we came out of draft just you're right. I should feel more offended than I perhaps do. That draft went rough. That was a rough draft.
Yeah.
That was a rough draft. Trademark pending.
And our like top 3 picks, they were either banned away or stolen away from us, right? And so it felt coming out of draft like, well, I really think we got Origined. That's what I'm thinking about this. Like, Origin in the LEC has a reputation for being the preparation team, right? It's like, if you give them long enough to prepare, and they'll like have a really good game plan that is, team specific, and they'll be able to execute that and make themselves, as a result, like, probably perform better than they really should. And like, I mean, the last part maybe I disagree with, because C9's pretty dang good still, especially with Licorice back. But they just out-prepared us. I tweeted, I have never felt so scouted before a game.
Yeah.
Like, it felt so much like, all right, we know exactly what they're going to do. And it wasn't pretty from that point on.
Yeah, it's like they had a mole, right? Like, how...
Who is it? We're starting that rumor officially. Who's the mole inside 100 Thieves?
C9's they've got insiders in all of the top teams. We're included in the top teams now.
Any recent signings? Any recent hires?
Yeah, right. I think there's definitely it felt like they'd done their homework. I think part of it also was likely that they I'm sure they didn't forget the last time we played them.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Like, Reaper straight up said, like, we wanted to get revenge, and it felt good to get revenge on him. Yeah.
Well, and they brought, like, their AAA plus game, right? They came out hot, and they brought their best lineup. And we know C9 is one who will experiment with the lineup. We talked about that in advance of our last game. Like, who knows? Who knows who they're going to put out there? Some of that was forced on them just with the injury to Licorice, but having him back, having Svenskeren in, man, that team is, they look like a world-class team, right?
Yeah.
One that could probably challenge just about anybody.
Yeah, I feel like they have a pretty high ceiling. They also have kind of high variance, if we're being honest. Yeah. But, like, certainly they are capable of competing. And in this particular iteration of the 100 Thieves versus C9 battle, that was just clearly evident that their ceiling is way higher than ours. If we're
at this time,
honest. Yeah.
At this time, yeah. Well, and I think, okay, so another game. Let's add this one to the tally. TSM, first go round, Cloud9, both games where we just, you and I left those matchups and those games feeling like, one, what is there really to say other than, boy, that didn't go well? And two, what do you learn from it? Just because you didn't really get to play your game at all. Like, we left that game, it kind of felt like we lost it in draft. And so you look at the outcome and you're like, well, how good are we? If we're playing, like, it felt like we had such a low potential ceiling on that specific match just because of the way draft went.
Well,
that it's hard to say, like, what if we're playing at our best, how could it have gone?
Well, perhaps that's, the lessons are still to be found in the draft. Like, for instance, can we ever blind pick for FakeGod? Like, that's one of the questions we have to ask ourselves, right? Like, if you look back at the history of FakeGod's matchups since he's been in, he has been countered very, very often. Like there have been, I mean, I don't have this like in front of me, and maybe someone in chat could pull this up, but from my memory, there have only been 1 or 2 games where he hasn't been countered. And so you've already got somebody who is viewed as a weakness, at least on the team, like viewed as an exploitable weakness. And now they are getting hard matchups on top of that. Like that's a pretty rough position to be in, you know? Oh, and geez, look at more gifted subscriptions are coming through. Sabrina, who is a 100 Thieves official. You guys know Sabrina. She's coming through with the gifted subs. Thank you. That is so kind.
And Chad is noticing that I'm not subbed. I was subbed very recently.
Yeah.
because I think Dylan gifted me one.
Yeah, exactly. As we've said before, if you watch our show, there's like a high likelihood that you'll come out with a sub if you haven't subbed already. That's just how it rolls. That is just how it rolls.
That's how we go.
But yeah, so there's maybe one potential lesson, right? Is the FakeGod thing. Like, do we have strong enough belief in ourselves for the rest of the picks to make sure FakeGod doesn't get countered? Like, do you have any strong feelings about this?
I'm glad you brought that up. I think the Aatrox into Jax is definitely a more favorable matchup, certainly than Kennen into Jax. And we'll get into that next. I'm not going to get ahead of us. But, you know, that was a good game for him, playing against Viper, who was on the Jax. So it's possible. We've seen it. Will we continue to see it? Don't know. I think there are things that we can do as a team to unlock that potential. And I think one of those is there's kind of a clue here in what Aphro was saying on the heist most recently, which was it's kind of like, hey, look, bot lane is not in its final form. Like we have Zyra and we're seeing the bans come through, and it feels good. And it's kind of an acknowledgement that banning against 100 Thieves is not just picking those perma bans and letting it auto ban, basically.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to ban out Zyra. But he said, I want to get 2 or 3 matchups for bot lane where if we get those, we win. And I think if you have that, then you cannot as easily counterpick against the other lanes, the other solo laners, you know. So if your focus has to be drawn to bot lane in the draft, then that's going to free up some room for FakeGod to get more favorable matchups, or for us to save his pick towards later in the draft. If we have that many more, like I think that Jinx game was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad to see that come through. And I think if that's one, I know that it's a more situational pick. You've got to be kind of careful about that. But that was great to see because that was a fresh look and one that we hadn't seen before. And we're seeing Aphro experiment with some of those as well, I think. I would say the Lux fell flat.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's so. But the fact that we're doing it, we're trying, that's good. I think as they continue to improve in the bot lane, there will be more of those that work like the Jinx pick did, and fewer that kind of fall flat. So I think that will kind of build in some flex for FakeGod as we go.
Yeah. I liked in chat Darkuth's point as well that like it seems like there aren't as many effective flex picks anymore.
Yeah.
And like just in general, and then, you know, those that are tend to get kind of targeted. It's like that when we started out the split, it felt like there were flex picks everywhere. Like everything was a flex pick. And for any team that's not G2, you know, that's kind of the situation has changed a little bit. So, I mean, when you talk about the positions that you get forced into, we did see something a little bit unusual with Ryu coming out with Lissandra. So wanted to take a minute and address that. I mean, one of the comments probably made was that part of their preparation for C9 was going to be to find ways to deepen their champion pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably is sensing that there are some definite power picks for 100T that, you know, you could remove from us. And so we want to get built up on the other champions. And so that kind of experimentation was what we saw in this draft a little bit with the Lux pick and the Lissandra. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. So what was your What was your take on Ryu's play as Lysandra?
Yeah, I didn't love it. I think that champion came through. It seemed like it came through as a very specific counter against the Aurelia in the hands of Niski, which ended up being, I would say, a game-breaking problem for us. Like we just could not contain his Lysandra, or sorry, his Aurelia. And the Lysandra is, a good answer to that because you have the hard CC. You can stop the dashes before they get going and before they tear apart your entire team in a team fight. I'm struggling to remember one time where we effectively used that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because Cloud9 just played really smartly around it, right?
Yeah.
And I think Niski's really good. So, it was one of those where it was kind of like an oh crap moment, I think, of he's got the Aurelia. We've got to do something about that. And this was the proposed plan. I would say it didn't work. Now, I think there's another point to be made on the draft, a quick one, which is we did see the Corki ban come through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So we kind of didn't have, that might have been a very favorable matchup to Aurelia as well. Get him the poke, get him the mobility, the package. Ryu's been great on Corki. So I think if you look at that draft, you kind of see that Cloud9 was able to ban against us. We had to ban solely against the meta. And I think that goes to your point of it felt like we were scouted. Like they weren't worried about the power picks in the meta. They knew what we wanted to play and they took it away. And I think that's kind of why you get that Lysandra pick coming through. And it just didn't work flat out.
You know what I was wondering about? Like we saw some pretty intense Vladimir play from Ryu in 2018.
Yeah, some amazing plays.
And that really hasn't come out yet. So maybe that could be another option. I think someone in Twitch chat brought that up as an option for Someday. I think Someday's been playing that on stream as well. I would like to see something like that. I mean, Lysandra, when the Lysandra lock-in came through, I immediately thought of the Hui flank to win the game against Clutch in last split. Like that was an amazing moment. But other than that, I don't have any strong feelings for the champion. But I've seen Ryu do some insane things with Vladimir. So
yeah, I would say I agree with you. It feels, I feel like that's not quite Ryu's playstyle as much, right? Lysandra, it's a little bit of a safer pick. It's more of like an engage. There's like that one magic setup play, right? That we've seen win us games.
Yeah.
Who he pulled off, but I feel like Ryu's strength has been in kind of taking over the team fights, and that's just not a champion you can really do that with.
Yeah. So beyond champions, beyond draft, I mean, I was making the point that we felt super scouted. Honestly, I felt like that went beyond just drafting. I felt like C9 was in this weird, what you call it? Jeez, Ultra Instinct mode where they knew. Right. Because something that we saw from 100 Thieves that is now becoming our playstyle is even while we were behind, we were aggressively trying to find the plays, right?
Yeah.
We were taking big risks and we were being assertive. We were moving fast at them. We would jump on somebody to get a pick. I swear to you, they were countering every single move. Like they knew exactly what to do in every single situation. And that was a little surprising to see. Like when I was watching it unfold, some of the aggression plays that we'd make, I was like, okay, yes, this is about to work, and maybe we can get in a better position. I'm not sure it worked a single time. Like they always reacted in the perfect way, and I don't know what to make of that. Like, is that a C9 thing? Is that a just kind of happened to play out that way thing, or were they like, okay, we know what 100 Thieves is now? And so as soon as we see them be aggressive, here's the counter. Like, are we being figured out in playstyle? Like now we searched for the longest time for a playstyle, right?
Right.
Now that we have one, are we solved?
Right. It's like, if you don't have a playstyle, people can't prepare specifically for how to beat you. They'll just beat you, right? Like that's not a better position to be in. But when you have a playstyle, when you have an identity, and when people know what they can expect from you, and it's not just that you're going to sit back and let them take objectives. So still in a better place. Don't be mistaken. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? Like, there was this one play that I thought was super telling, and it was a very aggressive bot lane play, which I think is kind of becoming our thing, right? It may have, I think it was probably a gank, which, imagine that. We're saying that now. Where we got a great pick, and maybe his first blood, or it doesn't matter. We got the kill, we wanted more, we chased, and who was there to clean up and get and well, I think he fed a few of the kills to Svenskeren was Niski, right? So it was exactly what you said. He was exactly where he needed to be to clean up that fight and completely turn it around. And I think from that moment on, that was kind of the beginning of the end, where they had the answers ready. It's like they knew where we were going. It's probably just credit to C9, right? That's probably just really good preparation and coaching, to be honest with you.
I hope that's all it is. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, they beat us pretty handily. I felt like in terms of mistakes, I couldn't point to a whole lot. I think Amazing made a couple of mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, and I want to say, aside from like FakeGod just did not work in that game in lane phase, right? But so there were a couple things I saw from Amazing that were a little weird, and one was called out on broadcast, and that's the missed Rift Herald opportunity, right, where he picked up Rift Herald and he didn't get it, summoned before turret plates fell off, and it looked like he had a pretty easy opportunity to do that, and I think Bang was up top during that time because they had lane swapped, and he could have gotten those plates, and if we need him on anybody, we need him on Bang. So that was one thing. And
it's like they could have turned and burned because they got the Rift because of people being focused somewhere else, right? Yeah. So we had priority in top lane right there by the Rift Herald, and he could have dropped it.
Right. And then the other thing that we saw is, and I think this is my gut speaking, so someone can do the research, but it feels like this has happened a reasonable amount, is that when he's ganking bot lane, a lot of the time he gets the kill instead of Bang. And we saw that happening too. So Bang has some missed opportunities for gold, and maybe that could have been something for us. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of me just, scraping the barrel for whatever I can find on this. But, that's another thing is, like, Bang doesn't have a good record on Sivir. I don't know if he's 0-4 or 0-5 on Sivir for us, but he hasn't had that success yet. So
right. Sivir just doesn't seem to be his, and I could be way off on this, right? This could be like his best champion historically.
But yeah, as of right now, sure.
It seems like Sivir does not fit into this playstyle that we've developed. I think there's far less kill pressure that he can bring. I mean, he's going to deal out the damage, of course, in the team fights. He's going to get the bounces. It's going to chip, whittle people away. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be the 3 auto destruction of double lift that we saw with Xayah, right? Or maybe Kai'Sa. Either way. Yeah. I can't remember that specific
one. That was so funny.
They are in my head.
Oh, shout out to just having a newborn baby.
Right. Love that moment. So yeah, I think that's one thing to talk about. Well, a couple other just like quick notes on this game. FakeGod losing matchup, lost it hard. Lost it hard. Too Licorice, and the first time he played against Licorice, he didn't go that poorly. Mm-hmm. But he ended it was not a good game for FakeGod.
No, not at all.
Not mince words. There was one moment of brightness, which was he almost took the solo kill. Almost got the solo kill. And was denied by Sneaky. Denied really hard. and like it's no fault of his. That's just the way the game works. But it was good to at least see that kind of flash of like Licorice was in. He thought he had that kill. And if Sneaky wasn't there, he would have lost it. He would have lost the 1v1 versus FakeGod.
And it kind of felt like Sneaky didn't really have a reason to be there either.
Yeah,
I don't know. It felt weird.
He was roaming bot.
Overall, so in Twitch chat, Brother Darkness Gaming says, in my opinion, they were experimenting, and it's better to do that against a team you weren't expecting to win and high in the rankings instead of team fighting for a playoff spot. Here's what I'll say about this. I mean, I kind of think you're right. Like I said, like I brought up probably talking about champion pools and stuff. I kind of think you're right that they were experimenting a little bit, but here's the problem. We don't have any room to wiggle on our playoff chase. And you might say, well, we don't expect to win against C9. Well, we beat them earlier in the split. You know what I mean? So you got to consider all games we have a chance, and we need them right now. So I'm not sure, like, I agree with the experimentation principle in the long term, but now that we suddenly have a chance, but it's a small chance and a tight chance to make playoffs, that we have to try every time to win. Like, making playoffs is way better than missing playoffs. Like, finishing 6th and 7th. No, I'm just like, I know that sounds stupid, but it's right. Finishing 6th, 7 doesn't. It's not actually that big of a difference. Like on paper or whatever, it feels way, way different. And
it's kind of the difference between this split was a complete loss, and we actually accomplished something huge.
Right.
Like that's the difference.
Yeah.
And I think Brother Darkness Gaming is right. I think my sense is, and I don't know this, I haven't talked to the people who are making decisions. I get the sense that we are experimenting in some of these big games. And I'm not sure why. It might be because we're not confident in kind of our standard, I'm doing air quotes on that, approach. But I mean, just look at TSM and C9, those games. We went with something that was unfamiliar. And I think C9 did a good job of forcing us in that direction.
Yeah. I credit C9.
The outcome just was not. I think TSM, we were just trying to get kind of fancy, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So yeah, I think if there's one takeaway from this game, maybe it is I would love to see us. And I think when we play to our strengths, like we did against TL, it's a really compelling outcome. And I just don't think that we didn't get that look in this game.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will give you.
We're having nothing to talk about with this game. We found quite.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll give you a chance. You know, I'm feeling the urge to segue to the next game, and I know you hate when I segue, so you like to just say something right when I do it. So I'll give you a chance.
That's my cue. Here's my last word.
I knew it.
Yeah, there's always something. There's always something. Let me. You can tell me if this was worth the last word. My sense was that our bot lane was surprised by the arrival of Niski on Aurelia to clean up what was a good play.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Ryu pinged him missing. And I don't know if he did.
Huh.
And I think if he didn't, that is an equally big miss as not summoning Rift Herald or as missing your Gragas ult. You know, like that's a big play. So I'd be interested to know.
You know what? I mean, like, it's a good point, but did you really just use that moment to just criticize Ryu, the most amazing player ever? Ryu?
Nobody is infallible.
What about Ryu?
Everybody. I think you're right. I take it back. Let's go.
No. That's an interesting point, and someone will have to go back and verify that because I'm lazy and we're in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
Okay, FlyQuest. So, well, actually, you know what? I'll interrupt myself and say, and just kind of reemphasize something that I was saying earlier is I am still happy in the play style that was going against C9. I am very happy that the fight was still there. Very happy that the aggressive chance-taking plays were still happening. All right, that is just something that we would not have had happen in spring. And I want to always point that out when we see it because this team is not the same team anymore, and that is a huge positive. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. All right, FlyQuest. And on the back of that, we could have been feeling pretty poopy about ourselves after the C9 game and maybe phoned in FlyQuest. But like I said, we channeled that rage and aggression. And I think was it the sports psychologist guy? Was it his name's like Doug, right?
Yeah, I think it's Doug. Dr. Doug.
Dr. Doug said something about that, right? About like use that aggression in the previous heist.
Yeah.
I think that's what was going on in FlyQuest because we took it out on them. They were like the whipping boy.
They were. Well, and in our defense, they invited it, dude. They as soon as they sat down at their computers, they're like, all right, you guys want a hard matchup against 100 Thieves or the hardest possible matchup? And like, let's just go hardest. Let's fight them on impossible difficulty.
Yeah.
And so they started the draft and let through what I would consider to be 3 of our 5 best picks.
Yeah, it's like if C9 did the perfect preparation for 100 Thieves, we saw the exact opposite come out of FlyQuest, I felt like.
I don't know why they did that. It's so crazy, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so crazy.
It's like, oh, yeah, didn't you guys want Sejuani and Corky and Aatrox?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please just have them. And
Yeah.
like they not only that, but they banned champions that have not worked out for us. Like they banned Yuumi, and we had a terrible Yuumi game. They banned Jace, and it was like Jace wasn't even on the Rift when we played Jace. You know what I mean? It's like, what was going on there? We must have had this elaborate ruse during scrims.
Seriously. It's like they had a mole and we completely fooled them is what it was like.
Yeah.
You know, like there was one person in the room, they're like, yeah, have you ever seen FakeGod play Jace before? Holy cat. What a wow. Game over. Just you can't let them have it.
Yeah. So that was a thing, right? Like I came out of draft not quite believing that was our actual team because
felt good.
We got everything we ever wanted in a draft. But speaking of everything we ever wanted, I got to put a little check mark next to my personal list, which I may have mentioned on VOD Squad when we did that. But for this split, my remaining wishes were number 1, to make playoffs, and number 2, to have a FakeGod pop-off game. Okay?
Yes.
This dude smashed in lane so hard. So hard. Now, and admittedly, like, I don't know the Aatrox Jax matchup. I don't know what the intimate details of this matchup are. As far as I'm aware, it's not like an super abusive thing. Like Aatrox is favored, but not like it actually played out. This dude smashed.
Yeah.
He was up like 70 CS 20 minutes in or something like that. Like it was crazy.
And we weren't camping. I mean, it's not like we had just decided. Like the team didn't rally around FakeGod and say like, this is going to be the gift game to FakeGod.
Yeah.
Boost them up.
Yeah.
Boost them up, boys. No, it's like the spectator wasn't really even up there all that often.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was just, there's not a whole lot to watch. It's just, he completely had the lane pushed under turret.
Yeah. It's like, oh, do you want to see the turret take out minions?
Right.
That's what you'd be watching if the observer's up there. Yeah. Turret farm. His turret had a massive CS lead on ours. Oh gosh, dude, I'm using that from now on.
That would be. I wish they had that stat.
Yeah,
right?
Turret farm.
More important than CSD is whose turret has
CST.
more farm. CST.
Okay.
Do you think Tim could hit us with that stat? I wonder if it's in there.
Oracle's Elixir, Tim Sevenhosen, if you are listening, hook us up with CST, please. The new official stat. All right. So talking about the game itself, I was a little nervous at the beginning because there were 2 pretty obvious mistakes that came out. Like Amazing went for a very expensive Scuttle Crab, where he was fighting Scuttle as I think 4 of them were collapsing, and instead of getting out and just leaving the Scuttle Crab, he's like, no. We need this vision and slight speed boost.
He got the gold too. He put some gold in his pocket.
100. He gave them 300, but
well, it's like, hey, if you realize you've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you better at least eat the cookie before you get killed.
All right, fair enough, but
lesson to all you kids out there.
Yeah. And then we had what was it? An Aphromoo fat finger under turret. That's what we think happened, right?
Yeah.
The safe bomb wasn't so safe.
Yeah. No, that was a suicide bomb. He hit the most unfortunately timed Braum Q of all time. he was like underneath the turret. The turret just dropped shots on his head, and then he got rooted, so he was going nowhere.
Yeah,
he was going nowhere.
It looked like a clip of me playing Braum. That's what it looked like.
Like, wait, my Q does damage? What?
But the interesting thing was after those mistakes, and we started 0-2, I think. I think, those both happened before we got any kills.
Yeah.
I think what happened is Ryu called everybody together. He said, everybody meet me at the well. We're going to buy some items and we're going to have a little chat. And he lit a small fire and said, look, y'all, I have an idea. Let's not make another single mistake for the rest of this game.
Yeah, those mistakes you guys have been making.
Okay.
Let's stop that.
And we proceeded to, as far as I'm aware, not make any more mistakes for the rest of that game. And
cleaned it up.
Wow, that was a clean, decisive victory.
Yeah. Everything that we've talked about is needing to be polished up and shined, and was looking good. Some really well executed dives. Such wanting to get in there, doing work. Some incredible ults. Like saw it all. We were kind of styling on them.
Yeah.
Like at the very end, I asked for a replay. Amazing intercepting the Silas Glacial Prison stolen ult. He dashed into it and stole it as the Nexus was falling. It's like that was the Thug Life glasses falling down to his face.
You could just animate that into the VOD on his little player cam down at the bottom.
Yeah. Like we were feeling ourselves. And that's where I look at that kind of a game and I just think, man, if we played that game with those champions against Cloud9, so again, credit to Cloud9 for not letting us do that, not giving us that option. It would have been a different game. But yeah, this one was pretty decisive.
Yeah. So, and again, this is something I said on VOD Squad, but watching us, we took. Actually, I think in Drakes we didn't do much. I think there were like 2 Drakes taken total during this game.
Yeah.
They just weren't needed and weren't a priority, I guess. I think we got like Ocean and Mountain maybe. But we, locked down the Baron and took care of business. And when FlyQuest was pushed into their base, they looked like us, in spring. They just looked like there's no hope left in that team. So it's basically like all you do is ban Riven and FlyQuest goes into turtle mode,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they were. I mean, talking about playstyles and playing around them, if that's your playstyle, Riven, pretty easy to play against. You have 3 chances at the start of every game to play against that playstyle.
If you miss the first ban, you have another ban to use.
If you pull a FlyQuest and let all 3 through, it's going to be a hard game for you. It will be a lot harder than if you don't.
Yeah.
And we got it right. We got that part right. We passed the test.
Right. So I think
I still don't understand what happened to that team, by the way. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I feel for those guys because I think they're a likable team, but man, it is not looking good at FlyQuest right now.
It's looking rough over there. So I think they're KO'd for this split. Like I don't see the life there. I don't see them in the playoff race. Yeah.
No. Nope. I think the best we can hope for at this point is that they steal a win off somebody else who's in the race and help us out.
We need all the help we can get. You want to go ahead and talk about playoffs then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so here's what I see as the most likely / necessary route for us. We said when we first were talking about playoffs, like what was it, 2 weeks ago maybe? We said we have 2 losses to burn on our way to the end of this split. Now we've used one. The C9 game, that's over and done with. So we kind of have 1 loss to burn. Since we have the tie going on with Clutch and Golden Guardians, that kind of complicates things actually, because instead of us riding out 2-2 for the rest of the split, which ordinarily you'd be able to do, Clutch and Golden Guardians play each other, which means one of them is definitely going to get a win. So here's how I see it. We need to go 3-1, so we do have 1 loss to burn. The games left are TSM, Clutch, Golden Guardians, and CLG. So there are no easy games there, and there are a couple of hard games. there, especially because for whatever reason, TSM has seemed to know us better than we know ourselves, and have kind of dominated us, if we're being honest, for the most part, like going back to 2018. So it's going to be tough, man. Like, I don't think we have an easy route forward at all. I think we need to beat those teams. I think we can call the CLG game a loss, because I don't see us beating CLG. And if you disagree with me, let me know. But I think we have to beat TSM, Clutch, and Golden Guardians, and that's the only way to really force our way into playoffs. Do you have any alternate takes? Any of the other, like, there are some other paths involved where teams like implode basically, and then some of the teams that are out of the race are able to scoop wins up. I don't think it's very likely. So, I mean, any other thoughts on that?
If we want to keep our destiny in our own hands, this is the path we take, right? Mm-hmm. If we don't, we're going to need help from elsewhere. And that is never a good way to end the split. You never want to be there, either leaving up to a tiebreaker or counting on somebody else picking up a win, especially if somebody else is one of these like clearly bottom tier teams right now, because those guys are looking completely adrift and they don't have a lot to play for. Mm-hmm. But if what you just said, if we pick up a win against TSM, Clutch, Golden Guardians, it's a guarantee, right? It's a lock, because of the head-to-head matchups with them. They would then, or could they still? I don't know. We need the foldy sheets,
dude. The foldy sheets are insane for this, because all the paths in besides the one I talked about are pretty complicated. Yeah. I see some people in chat that are saying TSM is looking really rough, which is kind of true. But I'm telling you, every time we think that we're a favorite against TSM, we go down.
Yeah. I mean, if TSM can pull the Cloud9 and come in ready to play against us, specifically,
which they crushed us in draft during the first game we played this split.
Yeah. I mean, what we need to have happen is for them to, I think this is what I hope we're going to do. Have them ban, like, let's say they just run back the C9 bans, right? We either need to be ready with something meta, which we have not been. Mm-hmm. Sonateric didn't work for us. Yumi didn't work for us. Karma, I've not seen us play. You know, like, there's a lot of picks out there. It keeps getting banned
against us.
It's just, it's powerful. It's just meta. Nobody wants to play against Karma. So, but that's the thing, right? Nobody wanted to play against Yumi, and then we got the Yumi against TSM, and it didn't work. So I almost think that, like, a potential win condition for us is to have something ready that is not what they're expecting, that is as good as what they're expecting. And that's a tall order.
Yeah.
I think we can get there. I think we can do it. Now that we have an identity and we know who we are, we can spend time practicing and developing those other picks instead of trying to learn how to play the game as a group. We know that, like, that's in there. Even when we're losing the game, we still bring that energy like you talked about. So I think that I'm feeling confident that will be there regardless. We just need to have champions who we are comfortable making those kinds of plays with. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like our next phase, our next form is to have more than just the three, right? We've got to expand beyond what C9 did to us.
Yeah.
And if we can, I like our chances.
It kind of feels like a lot of it's going to come down to Aphromoo, if he's able to find a playmaking support that works for him. I've already seen people calling out the Bard pick for him, which we've seen be really cool. It definitely seems like Aphromoo needs a hard engage.
Yes.
And, you know, without that, he's kind of unable to alter the game the way he wants to. So, you know, maybe Bard is an option. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like it's going to hinge around. Like, if Aphromoo is able to successfully pick, because a lot of the times I feel like we go the way he goes. Like, either he picks Yumi and we get crushed, or he picks Tom Kench and pops off. You know,
which, like, P.S. not expected that. You know, like, no one expected that.
Didn't expect that, but it did get banned against us after that.
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic. I think you're right. We need him on engaged champs. I think you don't have to look further than the heist to hear probably talking about Aphro and kind of the way he is playing right now, where he's at.
Let's talk about that. I wanted to get to that, actually.
You want to go back? Yeah. Let's kind of visit that. Maybe this is a good segue into that. I think that as central to our identity as an aggressive team, and maybe like the center of us as an aggressive team is Aphro. And I think it always has been.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think there have been other people who are willing to be that aggressive around him throughout kind of the last year. So yeah, I think that's where we see us falter, is when we don't get him on an aggressive champion. Like Yuumi is powerful, right? And can do a lot of things that people are afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not really a great engage tool. I mean, her ult is probably the closest you get, but that's really more of like either a pick tool or an escape tool. Like you're not going to pop that off and take over a fight at the start. So I think we got to get him on those champions. I think you're right. And I think one of the things I've been most encouraged by is the fact that his mentality seems to be in a place where he's fully able to continue to add new tools into that toolbox, right? Like with the Tahm Kench. That was insane.
Yeah. So you bring that up. I mean, we said on the last episode, why aren't we talking about Aphro? Like that was a question that was sent into us, and it was a really great question. Like, he was not being given very much credit for any of the turnaround, which, you know, our take on that was kind of like, well, there's pretty much 4 guys involved in the turnaround right now,
right?
That have been pretty important to it. But, you know, certainly he deserved a little shout out. So I think what we saw on the heist was the heist getting the 100 talk buff, because they dedicated the episode basically to Aphro at the turnaround.
Right.
So I'm not saying we gave them all the ideas like the COD job. I'm just saying there's the coincidence.
They hit the right notes.
No, of course we're just playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot was focused on Aphromoo there, and probably like fired off some candid and weird stuff about him, which I think is honest.
Yeah.
It was just really weird. Okay, so I wanted to recap a few of the things that probably said about Aphromoo. And he started this little monologue by saying, I don't think we'll get 2018 Aphro back ever.
Ever.
Now, 2018 Aphro, in case you forgot, is MVP Aphro, right?
Right.
Spring 2018 MVP. And he says, I don't think we'll get that back ever. So I guess it was meant as some sort of weird compliment, though.
Yeah.
So because he gave some reasoning, right? Like he didn't just put that on an island. He was saying one of the things is we have more voices and more knowledge on the team, which is something we were talking about, like having suddenly we have a lot of veterans.
Yeah.
You know, like a whole bunch of veteran experience minus FakeGod. And so probably said he's doing less carrying in terms of communication.
Right.
So I guess, yeah, like that's one way where it's kind of a weird compliment.
Well, yeah. And the way, kind of as I listened to that segment from Polly, I mean, it's kind of like you're never going to get, it's almost like we're not going to get 2018 Aphro back because it was a specific point in time that produced 2018 Aphro. It was 2018. And it's because that's what we needed at that time.
Right.
And he was able to deliver that. And I think there's a lot of, I mean, when you think about the MVP and you listen to the guys on the dive talk about it, right? And the way they get votes in that, the way they think about it, what they're looking at, there's no question he was the most valuable contributor to that team, especially when you think about the fact that he was the veteran voice, especially in a bot lane that was not as seasoned, right? Cody-san or Rakara for Bang. Bang has a lot more experience. So I think it's, you know, it feels at one time, it feels bad because there is an acknowledgement here that it's not going to be the return to form that some people might be looking at, MVP. But I think it's also a better position to be in because he can focus more on the things that the team needs to be even better, which are, like we were talking about, engaged champs, learning Tahm Kench, for example, right? A champion who probably talked about him kind of having like a mental block on. And after that Tahm Kench game, we both talked about how kind of insane his play was, like how many people he devoured and saved, his abyssal voyages. Like that was a huge, I mean, he drew a ban the next week, right?
Yeah.
He went from a champion he wasn't comfortable playing and didn't want to play and didn't like to playing it one week and drawing a ban the next week. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get to do that as a player if your sole focus is on like team cohesion.
Right. And so I think what you're saying, if you sum it up, is that probably is pointing to a play style thing. Like when he says we're not getting 2018 Aphro back, it's right. Like we don't need individual excellence Aphro. Now he can focus on like some other things. Or I'm sorry, I said that backwards. We don't need like team communication, orchestration Aphro right now. He can focus on his individual play. And so he followed that up with I think his individual play is better, right? And then the other thing he said, which I think is very important, is he said he has his confidence and form back, which necessitates him having lost confidence, lost his form, which is there is a fine line between the criticisms that were aimed at Aphro that were legit and stuff that was kind of attacking him, right? I think you can objectively say his form was suffering during, up until week 3, basically, of this split.
Right.
Like 2019 was a rough year for him.
Yeah.
And so it's not spam this fire to make Aphromoo retire. It's more just like, he needed to jerk himself back into the game. Right. And he did. And that's like not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. It's I didn't expect it, right? I didn't. I think Brother Darkness Gaming on Twitter was talking about this a little bit in the last week, right? And there were a lot of people who kind of criticized Aphro in a really negative way over the last year.
Yeah.
And I think we did it. I'd like to hope that we did a good job of not really crossing that line, just because I have a lot of respect for him, but it's got to be so hard to do that. Lose it, like you said, to get your confidence and form back, right? Like coming back to that point is got to be an incredibly tough thing to do,
right?
Which is why I think, that's why we've been talking about his mentality being still what's needed to perform at this level. I think the point, at the lowest point, I said, I don't know if Aphro is LCS ready. That was the lowest point from 2019. Mm-hmm. And I don't take it back, because I think it was a legitimate question I had. Is he mentally in the right place? Is he confident enough? Is his, his play at the high enough level? And I don't think it was at the time. And so he has come back to that. And I think that's
my
all the more
man is now seaworthy.
Exactly.
There was a hole. He was leaking.
Yes. And so, like, I don't think that's something that you should look at and say, like, that's not like a black mark on his record or reputation. It's that much more commendable that he's come back to this point, and that he is now doing the kinds of things that we saw him do in 2018 from a play perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it can be more impressive to pull yourself up out of a disadvantageous situation than to just do well.
Right.
Like that shows some sort of strength of character that not everyone has, especially, honestly, like in my opinion, especially in a esports world where some people can be a little fragile in that sense,
like mental.
Yeah. It can be really tough. Like there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. There's the whole insane Reddit community who makes sense approximately 2% of the time.
There's your Twitch chat, which people are spamming stuff in while you're trying to just do your stream. Like he said, his own subs were saying stuff like that to him. So, right.
Yeah, it's just not easy. So he should be commended.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got 2 more things to take care of. 1, it's that time, everybody. We are contractually obligated to talk about Prawley Watch.
Prawley Watch.
We're watching. What do we know?
Yeah.
He good?
I don't think my opinion has changed.
He good?
2 thumbs up. Keep it going.
Oh man, look, okay, some context, some reasonable context.
Yes. Okay. Please help me out.
as was pointed out in Twitch chat earlier, you could summarize this weekend's game in the almighty simple words of, we lost to a good team and won against a bad team.
Yes.
Okay. We are fighting for the last playoff spot right now.
Yes.
So it's not like it's all fixed. It ain't all better. We still need some kisses on the boo-boo.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say like. So I think that the goal of Probably Watch, right, was, is he going to be fired or not? Right. That was really what we're looking at. Because if we had a repeat of the spring split, it would be really bad news for Probably. And I don't know who they replace him with. I've pointed that out a million times. It doesn't seem to me that there's a better coach available than Probably. And I personally like him, so I'll just put that out there too. That's my own bias, but yeah, like I don't think he's in firing danger right now. I still think there's been enough of a turnaround of the team that despite us like maybe missing playoffs still, maybe still not being able to beat a good team, Yeah. He's done enough. I think he has done enough to save his job.
For the split or for
this
the
split.
future?
Yeah.
He would have to walk into Nadeshot's office and throw a coffee on him to lose his job at this point. You would be sacrificing a split that is still salvageable.
The next heist has footage of this exact moment.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's the Hunter Talk buff in action.
Oh, that's a debuff.
If we say it happens.
It happens. So yeah, there's no world where I say you get rid of him right now. If Probably Watch is like a long-term watch, like are we trying to track the next big one? Then I think like there's certainly questions to talk about. Personally, on the longer term, which I think is kind of a more productive conversation at this point in time, I've seen enough here with what is basically kind of a cobbled together roster to say I am confident enough that I want to see what he can do in 2020.
Yeah.
I'll put my chips in for next year too.
So does your answer to that question change if we go 0-4 for the rest of the split?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, it changes.
It changes how I think about 2020. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if we lose out, we're 6-12,
and we are not in playoffs. And I think at that point you've got to ask, how much longer are you going to give this guy? Like, how many more chances does he get? And that's a question I still have right now. But right now he's not using any of his extra lives, right? Like, even if you're on 0 lives left and you keep playing and you are alive, the game continues. So I don't know how many extra lives he's got.
Yeah, I mean, like, if this split plays out, if the remainder of this split plays out reasonably to expectations, so say we win 2 games, 2 or 3, I think he's good. I think he's safe.
Right. Because, can I finish that thought for you?
Yes, please.
Looking at 2020, if you can routinely beat people who you absolutely need to beat and occasionally beat people who it helps to beat, you're a playoff team. And so I think the question then becomes, are we content with being a playoff team, or are we saying that we need to be back at Worlds? Like, do we need to be a top 3 team, not just a playoff team? And if your answer is top 3 and we scrape by, and kind of end on then maybe that's not enough. But I personally would say at this point, I think we have to be realistic and build back towards being a top 3 team. I don't think we can just buy our way there or make a roster change and be there. Like, I think you have to build it.
Yeah. So I think long-term, that's right. Looking beyond this split, we have to get there. Like, the amount of money that's being spent, they've come out and they've said, hey, we're spending the second highest in the LCS. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the organization cares about championships. They're not here to just sit back and like, okay, whatever. It's okay if we lose. So long term, yeah, you're absolutely right. I kind of dread those conversations in the off season, to be honest. Like right now, I'm just wanting to see how the rest of this is going to play out and make judgments from there. So let's talk about the next week then, and then we will get out ya.
Yes.
Game 1 is against Golden Guardians. They are tied with us in 6th place at 6-8. They went 0-2 this week. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
TSM
losing
and
to TSM and Team Liquid.
They had that weekend.
Looking a little rough, maybe?
Yeah.
What's your take? Do we get the dub? And don't give me the optimistic Jordan. Give me the realist Jordan.
Oh, boy. I think we do get the win. And I think we get the win because we need to win.
Okay, you snuck in the optimistic take.
That's it. I can't get away from it. No, look, we want revenge for one. We're gonna come into this game remembering what happened last time. I think Froggen has been less a dominant force in a lot of ways, and I think he kind of single-handedly took over that last game that we played against them. And if you remember, we had Talia out there. It was kind of a weird look from us.
It was a weird look from us.
They're going to have to prepare for standard Thieves now. And I think there's a good enough chance that against a team like Golden Guardians, we can probably bring something that will work, that I'm going to say we pick up the win.
How do you like the matchup of FakeGod and Hanser?
I'm not super worried about it. You know, I don't see FakeGod losing to the extent that he did against Licorice. I'm not worried that he's going to lose lane so badly that we cannot win game, which if you're familiar with the meme, you'll know it takes a lot to get him to that point, like to get him that far behind. So I'll be watching, but I'm not overly concerned.
I mean, I'm a little concerned. I feel like I like Hanser in that matchup right now, like talking about lane phase at least. And when I look down at it, it's like I'm kind of feeling Froggen in the matchup against Ryu also. So it's basically
depends a lot on who you get Froggen on.
Yeah, well, he's got stuff available to him, man. He's been playing pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
So it's really like, can our bot lane smash? And I think they will. It's just how hard did they smash?
Yes.
And I guess that means a lot of it's on Amazing as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. I'm going to predict a win. I think we take them down and stay in playoff contention. Then comes the TSM game. Okay.
Yes.
So TSM is tied 4th place, 8-6. Their last week they beat Golden Guardians, lost to Optic, who we beat. I will say this. Optic looked a lot stronger in that game, in my opinion, than they did when they played us.
Yeah.
But yeah, TSM's form's a little down right now. So this one is tricky, and this one is important. So go ahead, weigh in, buddy.
Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna give us the W, and I'm gonna do it because I think we do everything in our power to play our game this time and not experiment. I think we know that there's too much on the line. You're not going to beat TSM trying to get cute. You just got to play what you play against them. We learned that lesson last time. I expect us to come out and play that game. The question in my head will be, can TSM do what C9 did against us? I don't think TSM is as good as C9. I think that a lot of their individual matchups with us are not as favored. I think specifically the bot lane, I think is one that we can exploit, and I expect that we will. I don't think you will see us take anything other than an engaged champ on Aphro in this game, and I think that if you do, I am not as confident by any means.
So there are a couple things to consider in this matchup, and number one is we finally get the Broken Blade FakeGod rematch after all the memeing that's happened.
I forgot about that.
I'll say this. I feel like Broken Blade has looked pretty shaky.
Got in his head,
I'm
man.
not
got in his head.
Super confident in his form, but just knowing the EU in him, I wonder if this matchup, the rivalry, the memeing is going to bring out like psycho Broken Blade. And he's just going to like
Yeah.
punch FakeGod like off the map on the screen. You know, like just beat him so hard
through the map.
Yeah, exactly. Like part of me is wary of that. I think Bjergsen, you know, is obviously going to dominate in the mid lane. But the glimmer of hope is that I mean, no secret, I am not a Sven fan, but I feel like that bot lane is in rough shape right now.
And our bot lane's in good shape.
And our bot lane's in pretty good shape. So as long as we get a decent draft, like a medium level draft or higher, I think the bot lane will win out. So
make your call, Cole. They're also
we get
playing
the dub.
Acadian.
We 2-0. Yeah, they're playing Acadian. We 2-0. This is a 2-0 weekend, everybody.
If we 2-0 this, there's an incredibly good chance we make playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, actually in my mind, the TSM game is going to decide that. We win TSM, we're in. I think we're going to lose to CLG, but I think we're going to beat Clutch cuz we always beat Clutch. With like one exception maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like this is it. Like this is the week. I think we'll know by the TSM game what's going to happen. So
we'll talk about next Monday.
I am rooting for the tilting of Broken Blade. I am rooting for the destruction of Sven. I'm rooting and making animal sacrifices to Ryu, so that
as he demands,
as he calls good, so that he can hold lane against Bjergsen. Maybe we don't let Bjergsen get his Zillion or something like that.
Sion is out of the meta, thankfully.
I know, but he's still a problem on Zillion no matter what.
Here's one after him. A Zillion Aatrox. Can we not have that be part of their lineup, please?
Yeah. Dude, it's like so much is going to ride on this draft.
Yeah, man.
I don't know, but I do think that we can do this. I think in TSM's current form, we can do this. When we lost to TSM, it was a weird draft from us. As long as we get a decent draft, I think we can do it.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And our desired outcome is the tilting and complete destruction of Broken Blade. Let's not.
Playoffs are also important, but
Broken Blade getting beaten in lane by FakeGod.
I would love to see Amazing just doing a little bit of camping, just a little tiny bit.
I don't want to see that. I want to see Amazing just getting our bot lane ahead, to be honest.
Well, okay. I would love to see both.
Can we do both? Solo kills or nothing for FakeGod?
Do you have any cake? Can I have it? Can I eat it? Can I get both? I want both.
Yes. You may have your cake and eat it too. This
Amazing.
Once.
He's going to have to take Rift at some point. I want him to get Rift. And then Broken Blade is so tilted that he doesn't realize Amazing is there, even though he just took Rift, and he just strolls on up. He gets his Sejuani ult off. Somehow we get Sejuani. It's perfect. This is all fine. We'll win. It's great.
Yeah. All right. So predictions from both of us. 2-0.
A 2-0. It's been a while since we've done this, Cole.
It has been, I think.
Maybe ever.
No, it's not been ever. It might have even happened this split at some time.
It might have been last weekend.
It might have been very recent. Sorry. We're not good at these things. Chad always knows more.
It wasn't last weekend. You've inverted the. I just guessed 2-0 because that's what I always do.
Well, look. This weekend, like I said, is going to be a huge one. So we will do our best to make sure if we don't have, if we're not watching live with you guys, we'll do a VOD squad. Yep. And look forward to watching these things play out and hope we don't waste the split and we get into playoffs and make it all worth it. New emotes coming to our Twitch also. We thought it was going to be approved in time for the thing today. It has not been, but hopefully that'll be soon. And we got one more emote slot to fill, courtesy of the treasury of gifts and subs that has been putting in overtime, giving away 1 trillion billion subs to everybody in our channel. And as I say that, 5,000 bits coming in from Dylan.
Dylan, man, thank you. Dang.
Thank you, Dylan. Jeez.
The treasury is alive and well.
The treasury of gifts and subs. Goodness gracious. All right. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Some giveaways and gifts are coming soon. from 100 Talk to all of you. So, all right.
So keep an eye on your emotes. Keep an eye on your
on our Twitter, I guess.
Yeah. On your Twitter feed.
We'll get it figured out. We're kind of busy in real life, but we'll get it figured out.
We'll get there.
All right. Hey, everyone, we love you. We love this community. We love 100 Thieves. We love you and we miss you already. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.